Accept the 60% salary reduction or we'll find someone who will. That was the line, delivered with a smirk by an HR manager who smelled blood in the water. They thought they had me cornered, single mom, rent due, child depending on me. I didn't flinch, I just asked for 24 hours. She smirked harder, like she'd already won. What she didn't know was that I'd been waiting for this moment. Hashtag. Backstory. When I joined the company 5 years earlier, they were gasping for air. Revenues tanking, processes broken, employees leaving in waves. I came in and built systems that actually worked. Streamlined logistics, saved millions in waste, landed contracts that kept the lights on. Every quarterly meeting, the CEO praised our resilience. Never once my name. But I didn't care. I had a paycheck, stability, enough to raise my son without begging. Or so I thought. Then the new investors came in, suits, hungry for cuts. To them, loyalty was cheap and single mothers were expendable. That's when HR slid the paper across. Discovery of betrayal. I knew the truth before that day. Subtle signs, meetings I wasn't invited to anymore, reports I wrote, suddenly with someone else's name stamped at the top. My direct manager whispering on calls whenever I walked by. They wanted me gone, but not quietly. They wanted me humiliated, forced to accept scraps, desperate enough to thank them for it. And that's when something inside me shifted. I stopped thinking like an employee. I started thinking like an executioner. Strategic planning. That night, after putting my son to bed, I poured myself black coffee and opened my laptop. I drafted my resignation letter, but not to send, not yet. Instead, I wrote a different email, addressed to the CEO's biggest competitor, the one we all whispered about in strategy meetings, the one who'd tried to poach me twice before. Subject line, "Let's talk." The response came within 12 minutes. They didn't just want to talk, they'd been waiting. Execution. The next morning, I sat across from HR again. I signed the paper, accepted the pay cut, smiled as if beaten. But behind that smile, I was already negotiating a package 10 times larger. Within a week, I'd met with the rivals board. I laid everything on the table. The contracts I'd built, the pipeline I controlled, the systems only I knew how to run. They didn't hesitate. They gave me a title, a team, and most importantly, autonomy. Then I gave them something else, leverage. Because in my old company's desperation to erase me, they'd been sloppy. They'd left my name on critical vendor contracts. They'd let me remain the sole authorized negotiator with key partners. They'd forgotten that the invisible single mom held the strings. So I pulled them, quietly, precisely. I shifted accounts, redirected vendors. One by one, the backbone of their operations leaned toward my new desk. By the time my 2 weeks were up, the old company's foundation was already cracking. Climax. On my last day, they called me into the CEO's office. He tried to look stern, but his voice trembled. "We heard you're talking to the competition?" I met his eyes. Calm. Talking? No. Building? Yes. He blanked. "You can't." I slid a folder across his desk. Vendor agreements, termination notices, transfer confirmations. His hands shook as he flipped through them. Each page was a vein of his empire I had already cut. Then I leaned in, lowered my voice. "You thought I was trapped. You thought being a single mother made me weak. But you forgot. I built this place, and I can unbuild it." Silence. Only the sound of his breathing, shallow and uneven. I stood, walked to the door, stopped. "You didn't just underestimate me. You handed me the knife." And then I left. Resolution. 2 months later, the headlines hit. Market disruption. Competitor secures multi-million contracts. Old firm bleeding cash. I sat at my kitchen table, sipping coffee, My son doing homework beside me. My phone buzzed nonstop. Reporters, old colleagues, even the HR manager. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because revenge didn't come with fire or fury. It came with silence. With watching the people who tried to break me realize they'd destroyed themselves. And when my son asked why I was smiling, I just kissed his forehead and said, "Because, baby, sometimes the best way to win is to let them think you've already lost." Word count, 1,000.